Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Judy Laganga, and I am pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube live or later and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. That's uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and I read that already. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now, here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Judy, and so great to be here with you this morning, and so happy to be here with all of our friends here in the Zoom room, and those of you who are watching online on YouTube, whether you're watching now or later, we appreciate you showing up and being a part of the energy that we call Unity of Fredericksburg. So our broadcast date today is August 31st, 2025. Tomorrow is September. How did that happen? So, from the spiritual passages email that I receive on a regular basis, got a little information about September. September got its name from the Latin word septem, meaning seven, and that's because originally in the early Roman calendar, September was actually the seventh month, and then they redid things. So let's not confuse ourselves, but that's where the name September comes from. September in Old England was called Harvest Month. That time to gather up the rest of the harvest and prepare for the winter months. And it represents gathering and abundance. So here's a brief little spiritual reflection on September. September invites us to take stock of our own harvest. What fruits of love and learning and spiritual practice have grown within us this year? What wisdom have we cultivated that will nourish us in the months ahead? Just as farmers gather the last sheaves of grain, we are called to gather the blessings of our lives, relationships, insights, acts of kindness, and store them in our heart. So, happy September tomorrow. So, back here on the last day of August, we are in the midst of the third quarter of 2025, and our focus this quarter is on Unity's 12 powers. So, the 12 powers are what I call a spiritual study set developed by Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore that shares with us certain key aspects of divine nature that expresses through each one of us. So the 12 powers are really helpful spiritual tools that we can call upon as we are working through our human lives and working to be more happy and more prosperous. So today, our focus is the power of order. Now, whenever the power of order comes up, something flashes into my mind, and it's from a video that I saw some years ago. And you might have seen a video of this at some point. And because there are many of them out there on the internet, this is a video from the British House of Commons, where the Speaker of the House of Commons is looking to get everybody to calm down and pay attention so we can get some work done. And it's just this whole string of having this gentleman go, order, order, order. So that's what always comes to mind for me. um, but I'm just wondering what it makes me think of in my own mind. Do you ever have those moments, my friends, where you are talking to your consciousness, to yourself, saying, get it together, right? Let's get in order. So let's talk a little bit about this power of order. You know that I like to start with definitions. I'm always kind of going out and looking things up. So, from good old Merriam-Webster, definition of order: to arrange, regulate, put things in a sequence, order, or to give a command, to place an order, right? At a restaurant. So from one of our 12 power sources, Power Up, which is by the Reverend Doctors Paul Hasselbeck and Cher Holton, they define this power of order as our ability to organize, sequence, balance, and adjust. It's a very useful power, isn't it? We're kind of using it all the time and very practical. So here is a quote from uh, Hasselbeck and Holton on the power of order, where they're describing it in our human lives. The ability of order is the ability to organize, and shows up in our lives in the way we organize our living space, work, files, and lives. We use it to sequence a variety of activities to reach a goal, or to schedule a class we need to take to complete a degree, or even to arrange the ingredients when we put it into a recipe. We use it to make plans, as well as to adjust those plans according to what we encounter along the way. So, again, a very practical and useful capacity is this power of order. I will tell you that my favorite aspect of the power of order is, I think of it as that power to determine the next best step. So when things feel overwhelming, or there's a really big project to be done, just kind of taking a breath, coming to the current moment and just saying, you know what? The only thing I need to do in this moment is figure out just the next step. I don't need the next 50 steps. I don't need to analyze all of that. Just what's the next step? Just the next best step to be taken. So that's one of my favorite aspects of it. And another of my favorite aspects about the power of order is around this idea of being organized, because I'm one of those people that I like to be organized, and I actually see it as being of service. It's a way that I and being of service to others. So, several of us in the Zoom room right now participated in a workshop yesterday that I facilitated, and I was using that power of order because I need to have a plan for the workshop. I need to have all of the resources I'm going to share, I need to have all the handouts. I've got friends working with me who've arranged for the space, arranged for some food, all of these things. This is all of us using that practical capacity for order to be of service to a group, right? So to me, that's a very joyful thing. So if I feel kind of bogged down by like, oh, I've got to get this all organized, when I shift into thinking of it as being a way of being of service to others, then that gives it kind of a joyful ease. So those are kind of my two favorites, but let's keep talking, because there are lots of different ways that the power of order shows up in our lives. So we're going to keep talking about how it shows up in our human lives, because this is kind of the immediate level where we go, aha, that's it. So organizing. So our brains naturally take in information and organize them into categories, right? Now, and we also organize our physical spaces. Now, some of us get more of a sense of satisfaction from that than others. There are those who like to organize things by color or shape or whatever, and other people who just prefer kind of a free flow situation. However, it is that shows up, it's still how you use this power of order. And of course, sorting things and packing. Any of, we've gone on trips where it's like whether you do it at the last moment or you plan weeks ahead, that activity of thinking about what am I going to need and packing everything, this is the power of order, right? Another aspect is sequencing, like I was talking about, what comes next. And this is something that we learn as children, right? That our socks go on before our shoes. And anyone who's had, little children in their household, when you let them practice with it, well, sometimes that toddler comes out of their room with their underwear on top of their pants, and they have to learn that, oh, no, no, the under things go on first and then the outer things go on. These are all sequencing things, right? And of course, we sequence and kind of organize our thoughts too, right? Before we make a phone call or have a meeting or something, we're organizing things. Another aspect of this power of order looks at balance. So that sense of when we've got too much of this or too much of that, and how we can kind of come back to a sense of balance. However, there's an interesting point here that I think it's good for us to look at. Very often in, common culture out there, it talks about balance like it's a goal to be perfectly balanced. Well, that's kind of a fallacy, wouldn't you say? We don't ever reach that. What we do is use our power of order to notice, okay, we've had enough of this. Now let's, so if you think of activity and rest, we know those times when we need to go out and be active and do all the errands and all those things. And then there's the time for rest. So it's more of an ongoing process and activity, from motion to, from being in motion to being at rest, and that being mindful of that. So noticing, here's the noticing when we've had too much activity or too much chocolate or too many people and we need quiet time, or we need, is noticing, because very often we get caught up with what has to be done, what we think needs to be done, all these kinds of things. But using that power of order to notice, I've had enough of that. I want to read you a piece of scripture that is in this lovely book, Divine Audacity, a book about the 12 powers by Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett. When it comes to this topic of motion, activity, and rest. This is an interesting piece of scripture because you may not have heard it. It comes from the Gospel of Thomas, which is one of the Gospels that didn't make it into the Bible, right? But was found in a cave and been brought into our attention in more recent years. So the Gospel of Thomas is arranged as basically a series of quotes. Jesus said this, Jesus said that. So listen to this one because it applies to what we're talking about. Jesus said, "If they say to you, 'Where have you come from?' say to them, 'We have come from the light, from the place where the light came into being by itself, established itself, and appeared in their image.' And if they say to you, 'Is it you?' say, 'We are its children, and we are the chosen of the living Father.' And if they ask you, 'What is the evidence of your Father in you?' say to them, 'It is motion and rest.'" Motion and rest. So there is Jesus showing up, kind of identifying this pattern of the activity of what I would call balance. So not the perfect thing that we achieve in the middle, like a yoga pose or something, but just that process of noticing, and we show up as motion and rest. And the other aspect of this power of order we want to talk about is adjusting, right? So, because in our outer human lives, things are always changing, right? So, we're always in this process of working around obstacles, dealing with the road construction, the rescheduling, all of these things. And we need to give ourselves some credit for the resiliency that we all have in dealing with the stuff. And in those moments when you're having trouble dealing with the stuff, we can claim that power of order. So I'll give you an affirmation in just a minute. I'll give you a couple of affirmations. So we know from all of this talk that we've had so far that some of us, all of us at some point, are underusing this capacity of order, right? So there might be certain aspects of our lives or many aspects of our lives in which we're disorganized, or we're underusing it because we can be locked in place and not willing to look at a next step or what sequencing or what adjusting, like, so we're just not um flowing. So in those moments where you sense yourself underusing, here's an affirmation for you, right? I claim order now. I use order with joy and ease. So you can coach yourself with that, right? I claim order now. I use order with joy and ease. Now, on the flip side, we can also catch ourselves overusing that power of order, wanting things to be just right, being fastidious or compulsive about things, trying to control our outer environment, right? So, as if getting everything lined up and in color order and alphabetized will keep bad things from happening, right? Anyone? Anyone? So, if you observe yourself in that situation, here's an affirmation for you. As I let go and go with the flow, I allow order to be revealed. I'll say it again for you. As I let go and go with the flow, I allow order to be revealed. You get me, right? So instead of trying to force it, just allow the natural flow of order. Don't feel like you have to be in charge of every little thing. All right. Now, we've been talking a lot about kind of how we order our outer world. We also use our power of order to manage our consciousness, which is a lot of what we talk about on Sunday morning, right? How to do maintenance and manage our own consciousness. Now, when I say consciousness, we're talking about our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and attitudes, which kind of forms that kind of viewer through which we view the world, right? The filter of how we, judge what's going on in our world. So this is how we think through things. So we use the power of order to manage our consciousness by reflecting on things, organizing our thoughts, sequencing our beliefs, processing. So you might come across a question or an issue that comes up, and allowing yourself time to say, hey, I need some time to think about this, to process. Then we're using that power of order to kind of get all those thoughts straight. One of the things that I love about Unity is that there is a sense of simplicity and logic and, kind of if this, then that kind of thing. And I have been able to use that in my own life in wonderful ways. And I recognize this as being a function of the power of order. So, quick personal story, I would say probably from the most challenging part of my life was when my eldest child, who's now an adult, was diagnosed with a brain tumor when she had just turned 6 years old. And of course, being the mom it fell to me to talk with her and explain to her what was going on and what needed to be done, that we've got to go to the hospital, that there's going to be a surgery, and explaining to a child of that age. And of course, this was overwhelming, but the simplicity of logic that I find in Unity helped me through that, because it's like, I am the mom that is present with this child. So therefore, I am the one to hold her hand, walk with her through this, and to say the words that she needs to hear. So I claim that the words that I say will be exactly what she needs to hear in this moment, and that we will take one step at a time. So I use that, which I now will call, a function of the power of order of, I'm the person that's here, so I will be able to do this, and, be the mom that she needs in this moment. And I partnered that with a practice of gratitude, and that's how I got through that. Um, but I see this now as a function of the power of order, just simplicity of logic, of thoughts connecting with other thoughts. I'm here, so therefore I'm the person who's meant to be here. And like so and so on, so forth. So another way that this might show up in your life might have to do with your mindset. So if you have a fundamental belief in what we sometimes call God or goodness, and that is expressing in every circumstance, then there's some logic that helps you in the difficult times to know the good is present, even if I can't see it with my human eyes. There's that sequencing of thought logic. So, and a quote that we used last week when we were talking about the power of will from the book Divine Audacity. I'm paraphrasing now, but we had a quote where basically she was talking about, in difficult times, I claim a blessing in this circumstance, and I intend to show up as a blessing. So this is all kind of logical, ordered thoughts. You kind of get your thoughts in order, right? Um, so we also talked about order as balancing and adjusting. So in our consciousness, one of the things that's constantly changing, that we're all dealing with all the time, is technology, right? Evolution of technology. So you could make the choice, and I've met people who are like, I'm not doing that anymore. And when you do that, then you isolate yourself from the world as it evolves, right? So instead, you could use your power of order to claim that I adjust with ease as you move into adjusting to whatever the new level of technology is. So whether or not you feel like you're good at the power of order, give yourself credit, because we're all using it to an amazing degree every day. And there are things out there in the world that can help us and remind us. So how can we, if we feel like we're not using it as effectively, or we want to use it more effectively, what can we do? How can we support ourselves? So one of the most important things is nature, spending time in nature, because nature shows us natural seasons and progression, right? Doesn't it? Right? Um, so that natural flow, wherever it is that you live, and however the flow of the seasons, there's a natural flow of growth. And here's a bit of scripture that's included in Divine Audacity that you will recognize, from Ecclesiastes. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up what has been planted. So observing nature is a great way to just kind of naturally move into that flow of order. and observing little bits of nature. So just taking a single bloom of whatever kind of flower and just spending time observing the patterns, or a seashell, the patterns inside a seashell, because all of that shows us that the universe expresses in a wonderful sense of order, and we resonate with that. That's why, it gives us joy. Jesus used this kind of patterning, of order in his parables. In particular, I was looking at the parable of the growing seed. This is from the Gospel of Mark 4:28. The earth produces of itself first the stalk, then the head, then the full grain in the head. So there he is, kind of saying, there's an order to things, friends. So if you're feeling unsettled, disordered, spend time observing nature. And you can imagine it if you're not able to do that. So just imagine spending time on the seashore where there's this natural rhythm of the sun going up and down, of the tides coming in and out, all of the way. All of this is an expression of order in the universe. And you can claim that, feel the energy of it and claim it within yourself as well. So it is helpful, of course, to have a spiritual practice, right? And in Unity in particular, we stress spending time in the silence, in meditation. Essentially, in the activity of listening instead of making lists and things like that, but in that kind of listening mode where we are tapping into our innate wisdom in our divine nature. So as I wrap it up here today and we move into our time of meditation, I want to encourage you to notice, I would call kind of the softer, gentler aspects of order. So just notice as you are organizing, if you are, or pondering the notion of organizing, that it truly can be based in that activity of discerning what is for the highest good. So if you just rush into shoving things into drawers, that's one way. Another way would be to really look at what's for the highest good in this moment and approach it in a more gentle way. Recognize that when you're looking at the next best step, what's to be done, that very often what needs to be done is to take a breath, take a break. Let it be that activity of the balance of motion and rest. Don't forget the rest part. That is making a choice. That is a natural thing that needs to happen. And when you get caught up in feeling overwhelmed by the endless need to adjust to, now there's this obstacle, now there's that obstacle, just give yourself a break, right? Give yourself credit for all of that adjusting. Don't judge yourself too much for doing it well or not doing it. Just be gentle with yourself. Give yourself credit for all of that, because after all, you have made it through every single one of your worst days. You made it through. 100% score of success on making it through your worst ever day and your worst ever situation, right? You're here. So I am going to prepare us for our time of meditation with reading from the meditation from Divine Audacity, or the Power of Order. So let me read this to you, and then we'll really go into our meditation. For our Zoom host, Jason, who's wondering, oh, when are we doing it? Not quite yet. Just give me a second, Jason. So just listen to this, my friends, as we prepare our consciousness for a little time in the quiet. Order is my name and my nature. I am the power of order by which I connect with my innate sense of direction. I naturally attune to the magnificent source, the one mind from which all things flow. I catch divine ideas and bring them into manifestation by the power of order. I am the adjusting power of order, easily sensing where to place my attention, adjust my mindset, or correct my course of action. I am the evolving power of order. Awakened to my ever unfolding consciousness, I incorporate the best of my past into my present and reach naturally toward a fuller and more enlightened future. By the power of order, I follow the clear path. I go through the open door. I choose an orderly course of thought and action. I bring about order moment by moment, choice by choice. So, with that, let us all take a deep breath and move into our time of meditation together. Now, if you wish, with that deep breath, you can allow your outer eyes to drift closed or just soften your outer eyes. For our meditations this quarter, we've been using a model presented by Cora Fillmore in her book, Christ Enthroned in Man. And it's a practice based on the 12 powers. So right now, I'd like you to focus your attention on the crown of your head. And if you like, you can put your hand there briefly, just right at the crown of your head, sensing a bright white light there, kind of like your connection point with all the divine aspects of your beingness. And it's not a white light without color. It's a white light that is filled with every color of the rainbow. And right here, we're going to affirm, I'll say it once, and then you can repeat it with me. Divine nature is awakening within me. Divine nature is awakening within me. Now shift your attention slightly lower to the forehead. And again, if you like, you can place a couple fingers there at the forehead. And we're going to affirm here, I am aware of divine nature awakening in me. Say it with me. I am aware of divine nature awakening in me. Now we're going to allow this focus that we're holding, this image of light, to slowly ease down through the body, through the neck, through the heart center, and come to rest at your navel. You can put your hand there if you wish. Right there at the navel, right there in the center of everything. This is the seat of your spiritual power of order. Here's where the body makes sense of all the nutrition that you take in and transforms it one step at a time in a very orderly process. The color for the power of order is a deep forest green, like we find in so many places in nature. So shift the color of this light that you've been imagining to this deep green color and feel that radiating right here at the core of your physical body. And right here, we're going to say an affirmation together. I'll say it once and you can repeat it with me. Divine nature as order is awake within me. Say it with me. Divine nature as order is awake within me. And with that, my friends, we're going to move into a time in the stillness together right now. And as we begin to bring our attention back to the moment, just notice the breath moving in and out of the body. Notice the gentle pressure of your feet on the floor, of your seat as you rest. And notice all of the wonderful orderly process that your body shows you on a regular basis. The process of digestion, the process of breathing, the process of your heart beating, all of this showing how you are showing up as the power of order. So let's close our time of meditation with one more affirmation. I order my life with ease and grace, and I am grateful. Say it with me, friends. I order my life with ease and grace, and I am grateful. So I am. And so you are, my friends. Thank you so much for being with me here today. And I am going to hand it back to our friend Judy.
Thanks for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again.